Hi and welcome to the video. I've just arrived at Heathrow from Dublin on board BA's newest aircraft, and you can see the video for that trip by clicking on the link in the description below. Today I'll be travelling onwards to Boston with British Airways in First Class on board one of their Airbus A380 aircraft, so I'm really looking forward to it. As I'm travelling in First, that means that I'm able to access the Concorde Room here at Heathrow, which is exclusively for passengers travelling in First Class, although BA travellers who have a Gold Guest List or Premier card are also afforded access, as are American Airlines concierge key holders.
Thank you.
What you see here is the main entrance to the Concorde Room, and this is the way that you'll most often come in if you've arrived through the First Wing security, which takes you through the First Lounge. However, I actually arrived through the lesser known door direct from North Security. Been fortunate to have been in the lounge a few times before, but it's been nearly 2.5 years since my last visit, so I was keen to get another chance to enjoy it. Travelling in First Class is usually well out with my price range, and a one-way First Class flight on this route can cost up to £10,000, but thankfully I only paid a fraction of that for today's flight. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll tell you exactly what I did pay, and you might be pleasantly surprised. As BA's most premium lounge, you'll usually find this a much quieter environment than the other lounges, with a good selection of comfortable chairs and high tables throughout, as well as a very attractive full bar serving a wide selection of premium drinks, including champagne such as this Amenity Cuvée Louise 2006, which retails for around £180 a bottle. The lounge has a terrace area, which sort of gives the feeling of being in an outside space while still being inside the terminal and protected from the elements. Here you'll find the nose cone from an actual Concorde aircraft, which is pretty cool. You can dine anywhere in the lounge, but there are some tables set up here specifically for dining on the terrace, in addition to the more comfortable lounge seating. There is also a dedicated dining room in the lounge, but we'll come back to that in a bit, as right now I have my sights set on something else. The Concorde Room is equipped with 3 cabanas, which are essentially small self-contained day rooms. These are allocated on a first-come, first-served basis, but are usually only available in 90-minute slots. So if you're thinking of using this for an extended nap on a long layover, you'll have to think again. I was fortunate that one of these was free when I inquired, so I was taken around by the concierge and shown to Cabana 3, which is at the end of this corridor. Within each cabana, you'll find a small day bed for relaxing on, as well as a desk and chair with a universal power block for charging up your devices. A TV is also provided. On the desk, you'll find a button which lets you call upon the concierge, and you can use this to order any food or drinks that you wish directly to your cabana. The cabanas are all equipped with their own ensuite toilet and shower facilities, and I'll be making use of the latter shortly. The bathroom's equipped with everything that you'll need for a short visit, including a hairdryer, which, strangely enough, I didn't need to use. Definitely one of the best features of any airport lounge is the ability to have a shower to freshen up in between flights. It is by far and away the best feature, and the cabanas in the Concorde Room don't disappoint. So if you get the chance, I thoroughly recommend using them. As you can hear, the only downside is sometimes the drains are a bit noisy, but certainly you can live with it. Well, I certainly feel refreshed after that shower, and I'm just drying off in the bathrobe provided in the cabanas. Like I say, if you get the chance to try it out, thoroughly recommend it, and look forward to exploring the rest of the lounge next. Feeling recharged and refreshed, I was ready to head back out and make the best use of the rest of the lounge. One of the main benefits of the Concorde Room is the ability to have a proper sit-down a la carte meal in their dedicated dining room, so that was my next stop. I was shown to my seat by one of the wait staff and had a quick look through the menu provided.
Thank you very much.
I didn't want to eat too much in the lounge as I was looking forward to trying out the food on board, so I skipped the starters and just went straight for the main. While I waited for my main to arrive, I enjoyed another glass of the Pommery champagne. The chicken was beautifully presented when it arrived. Strangely, it seemed to be lacking any of the new potatoes listed on the menu. It was a simple and tasty dish, and I really couldn't fault the way it had been presented. I think it would have been rude of me not to try one of the desserts, so I opted for the chocolate mousse. Unfortunately, this was a bit disappointing when it arrived. It tasted fine, and it was clear that some effort had been made in the presentation, but it felt like a very small portion with just a few blobs of mousse on the plate. And I finished off the meal with a glass of the Sauternes dessert wine. With dinner over, it was time to head over to the sea gates, where my flight was due to board. So I bid farewell to the Concorde Room and hoped that it's not another 2.5 years before I get to visit it once more. With a quick hop on the train between the satellite terminals, I was soon in Terminal 5C and made my way round to gate C62 for my flight to Boston. Boarding was just being called as I arrived, and as I was in Group 1, I was scanned through with the first passengers and made my way downstairs to the boarding area. After walking the 100-metre length of the jet bridge at gate C62, I arrived at door C, one of the 3 doors in these jet bridges which are specifically designed to connect to the Airbus A380, which is usually for the exclusive use of passengers in the first cabin. However, on this occasion it appeared to be in use for all the upper deck passengers as well, so I'm not sure if there was a technical issue with the third jet bridge. My aircraft for today's flight was this 11-year-old Airbus A380, one of 12 operated by British Airways. Arriving at door 1 left, I was given a warm greeting by the cabin crew and personally shown to my seat in 4A. As I was the first to arrive in the cabin, I had a quick look round. BA currently operate the A380s with 14 seats in first class in a 1-2-1 layout, making it much larger than the 8 first class seats you'll find on their 777 or 787 aircraft. The A380 first suites are around 30% larger than their counterparts on those other aircraft and offer around 60% more storage space, thanks largely to the addition of a large locker at the side of the seat. As you'd expect, the seat is spacious and is 79 inches long when in flat bed mode. Taking a look around the seat, you have a reading light above your shoulder and you'll find a small literature pouch to your side containing the safety card. There is a deep storage locker to your side containing the IFE remote as well as the power and USB sockets, and I found this ideal for keeping all of my personal items in during the flight. On the main console next to the seat, you'll find controls for the window blinds along with the headphone jack and the main seat controls. This is also where you'll find the controls for the reading light at your shoulder. This unit also houses the tray table which pops out from under this flap and is very large and solid. The table is designed to allow buddy seat dining, a feature now absent from most of BA's other first class seats, so there is plenty of space for you to dine and still have a laptop or tablet on the table or on the side console. As I was exploring the seat, the crew member who would be looking after my side of the cabin, Alexandra, introduced herself and gave me the menu for today's flight. I was also asked if I'd like a drink and opted for a glass of the 2006 Duval Leroy champagne along with some water, both of which were promptly delivered along with a dish of warmed nuts. Legroom is massive in these seats, so regardless of how tall you are, you're not going to struggle to stretch out. You also won't struggle for space to store your luggage, as each seat has a large closet to the side, which is big enough to store a standard roll-on. A top-up of my champagne was offered, and the crew were kind enough to leave me with the remainder of the rather attractive half bottle that it came in. As the jet bridge was retracted, the crew came round with hot towels which were welcome and very refreshing. One of the other crew, Ben, also introduced himself at this point. He would be looking after us in the galley and answered a couple of questions I had around the menu. You quickly get a feel for what the crew are going to be like on a flight, and I had to say that this was shaping up to be an excellent flight so far. Before long, we pushed back from stand, and if you watch the video carefully, You can just about make out the point where the aircraft is lifted slightly as the tug beneath us engages with the nose wheel. As we began our long taxi over to runway 27 right, the safety video was played. This is BA's new video, which was introduced at the beginning of August this year. It's a quirky nod to the popular period dramas like Downton Abbey and Outlander. Reception seems to have been a bit mixed, but I found it quite fun and something a little bit different.
Demonstrate the safety features of this aircraft, and your attention is essential as this may be different from any aircraft that you've flown on before.
All this important information can be found on your safety card.
Is it a winged creature?
Yeah. What perchance a celestial contrivance navigating the skies?
No, ma'am. That's a British Airways A380.
Our route for today's flight would take us westward, out over Wales and Ireland, then crossing the Atlantic and coming down over Newfoundland and Nova Scotia before making our final approach into Boston. Unfortunately, during the taxi, I was asked by one of the crew to remove my camera from the window.
Alright, okay. I'm so sorry.
It's not usually a problem on flights, but I'll always comply with the crew when they ask me to do something like this. And in fairness, the cabin crew member was very apologetic about having to ask me, but I appreciate that they're just doing their job. It just means that the footage might be a little bit more rustic than normal, as I had to hold the camera in my hand. And let me tell you, those windows are further away from the seat than they look. On the plus side, YouTube channel Flight Focus 365 captured the takeoff of my flight, and I've put a link to their full stream in the description below. It's a great channel and I'd recommend checking them out. If you're enjoying the video, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'd also ask that you please leave me a comment letting me know what you did or didn't like about the video, as this makes a huge difference to how YouTube's algorithm promotes my video for other viewers. After takeoff, I made a quick visit to one of the 2 dedicated toilets for the first class cabin. It was surprisingly small, especially when you consider how massive the 2 forward toilets are on the deck above serving the business class cabin, and I'd visited those on my last flight on the A380, which you can see in the video in the link below. Enormous toiletries were provided, and there was a handy seat for getting changed in and out of your pyjamas. Not long after I'd returned to my seat, Alexandra came by with another round of drinks and a selection of canapes. And first you can essentially choose to dine whenever is convenient to you, but I had already said to the crew that I was more than happy to dine once we were up in the air. I decided to get comfy and try out some of the seats' functions. While both of the windows have their own individual controls, you can lower and raise partial or full blinds across both by using the button at the side of the seat. You can also use the dial to the side to recline the seat and raise the leg rest, and I found this to be fairly adjustable, allowing for me to get reasonably comfortable, although there were some issues with my seat which I'll come to later in the video. BA do provide reasonably good noise cancelling headphones in first, but I prefer using my own Bluetooth headphones, in this case using my AirFly adapter to connect my Samsung Galaxy Pro 2 headphones, which I find work great and are super comfortable. It's a tough life, and I hope that you all appreciate the torture that I put myself through just to make these videos. I mean, look at these terrible views. Taking a break from the views, I decided to have a look at the amenity kit provided. This lovely blue velvet zip-up pouch from Temperley. Inside you'll find it well stocked with a pair of socks, a First branded eye mask, a collection of Elemis lotions and potions, toothbrush, a comb, which obviously I didn't need, tissues and a little pen. This was the gents kit, with the ladies kit coming in a much more colourful fabric bag with similar contents, just with a slightly more colourful array of Elemis products and a handy mirror. The table was then set for the start of dinner service. On the few occasions I've flown with BA and First previously, I've always noticed that the staff have a high attention to detail, ensuring that everything is set out exactly as it should be, and it's little touches like this which set the service apart. I had opted for the roasted artichoke soup as a starter, and unfortunately I didn't catch it on camera, but the soup was poured from a jug into the bowl at the table in a delightful touch. I found it really tasty and quite often go for soups when I'm flying, as I think that they travel well. About 30 minutes later, this was followed by my main course of West Country British beef. The sides included potato au gratin, roasted broccolini and roasted heritage carrots, and I thought the presentation was really lovely. While beef is hard to do on a plane without overcooking it, this was still tender and moist and I really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the mystery side, which Ben later clarified was ratatouille and was absolutely packed with flavour. While I was feeling reasonably full at this point, it's just rude not to have dessert. I didn't think there was a particularly great selection on offer, but decided to take Alexandra's suggestion and went for the chocolate tart. And in fairness, this was very nice, and service was finally rounded off with a pot of tea, capping off a flawless meal service. Feeling full, I decided to sit back and relax, watching some more Lord of the Rings with a large Baileys to help the food digest. From a service perspective, this had been a near flawless flight so far. However, where I have to mark it down a few points is around the seat comfort. Whether it was due to the padding being worn down over time, or it was just always this thin, I was having real issues with the hard seat mechanisms pressing into the backs of my legs, and this became more of an issue as time went on. Alexandra was great and suggested that we try folding over one of the mattress pads, which helped a little, but wasn't able to make the issue go away entirely. Far less of an issue was that the placement of the raised section to the side which holds the literature pocket kept getting in the way of my elbow. It's a minor gripe and I was able to work around that one without too much of an issue, so making myself as comfortable as I could, I relaxed for the remainder of the flight, watching the IFE as well as some content from fellow YouTuber Matt Jones. I was streaming his video using the onboard Wi-Fi, which is provided for free to passengers in first class, and I found it quick and stable throughout the flight. However, keep in mind that BA do not enable their Wi-Fi whilst on the ground, so you'll have to wait until a little while after takeoff before you can start to use it. BA also offer a free messaging bundle on their flights for members of the Executive Club, their frequent flyer programme. With about an hour and 40 minutes of the flight left to go, I asked if I could have the light meal, opting to bypass the starter and instead just go for the sirloin steak sandwich. This was duly prepared and brought out to me as soon as it was ready. It was fairly tasty and I felt it was more than enough for a second service on a flight of this relatively short duration. So what did I pay for this fantastic first class flight? First class flights with BA over to Boston can cost anywhere from around £3,000 for a return several months ahead of time, all the way up to a ludicrous £10,000 for a one-way flight a few weeks out. Thankfully I didn't pay anything close to this for my entire trip, let alone this particular flight. In fact, my entire round trip cost me just a little over £1,600, as you can see from the original breakdown that I priced up on ITA Matrix. This was for a total of 7 flights with a flown distance of 12,684 miles, meaning that the Heathrow to Boston part of this trip was around 25.7% of the total distance flown. This means that this leg cost me £416.60. Keep in mind that this is the business class price, and it cost me a further 20,000 Avios to upgrade this flight to first class with BA, except that it didn't really, as I was also earning 10,595 Avios for the flight, so the actual net cost to me was only 9,405 Avios, meaning that the upgrade cost me an additional £75.24, bringing the total cost for this leg to £491.84. Now I know that I'm being a bit clickbaity by posting this amount, as you can't book the flight in isolation for this price, but this is genuinely what this flight cost me as part of my overall trip. On top of the great value that the flight represented, it had also been a fantastic experience from beginning to end. Alexandra, Ben and the rest of the cabin crew had been exceptional, and it had been one of my best flights ever, with the only slight mark against it being the issues with the seat comfort, but these things happen and it certainly didn't manage to spoil the experience for me. With around 20 minutes left before landing, there was a final hot towel service in the cabin. Our descent took us southeasterly, actually passing by the airport and flying over Boston Harbour, then southwest over Quincy and Braintree, before looping around for a northeasterly approach onto runway 04 right and giving us some fantastic views of downtown Boston on this beautiful sunny evening. After touchdown, we had a short taxi over to our gate in Terminal E. This flight was another example of why I choose to fly BA whenever I get the chance, and why they're still my favourite airline to fly with. They may be well behind some Asian and Middle Eastern carriers in terms of the lounge and ground experience, and can sometimes fall short in terms of their catering, but when you get a brilliant cabin crew like I did with Alexandra and Ben, it just elevates the experience and makes it so much more enjoyable. Disembarkation was via door 2 left, and the crew were good at holding back the other passengers to allow those in first class to get off first. Thanks again. Although I was really sorry for this flight to end, my journey would be continuing tomorrow after a night's rest in the Hyatt Regency Boston Harbour, which gave me some stunning evening views of its own. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss other videos from this trip and future videos as they're released.